Good evening. Good evening. Yeah. Welcome to our midweek service here at Azalea City Church of Christ. This microphone's not very loud. I do have a couple of prayer requests. I want to ask that you remember Sister Glenda Wilkes in your prayers. I know we've been mentioning her. She is home from the hospital. I don't have any updates past that, but just please keep her in your prayers with some of the health issues that she's facing. Also, Sister Belinda Rousseau has a CT scan scheduled for tomorrow. We mentioned this Sunday, so please keep Sister Belinda in your prayers. And then Dad has an MRI as well on Friday. Y'all will keep him in your prayers, praying that he gets good results with that. Yes?
We can continue to remember Miss Angie. She messaged us today, and she's just having some pain and all, and she will see the New Orleans doctor late tomorrow evening.
So prayer for good news that no infection. She was able to get the hardware out of her ankle. Everything was going well there. She's been in a lot of pain here throughout this week. So please keep Sister Angie in your prayers. And you said she's going to New Orleans tomorrow. So please keep them in your prayers and pray that she continues to get good results and that maybe some of that pain subsides as well. We're updating our directory photos, so I don't know if we're taking pictures this evening, but I know for Sunday. Y'all don't look good enough anyways. Sunday morning during fellowship and after worship, if you could catch Christina Blankenship is going to be taking those pictures. I know many of you did it this past Sunday. Good job. If you haven't done that and would like to do so, you have another opportunity this coming Sunday. Hey, by the way, I wasn't sure, but they did leave a Walmart bag in my mailbox the other day. So the U.S. Postal Service and our local food bank are hosting a food drive on May the 10th. So that's coming up in just a few days. There's more information about that in our bulletin. I read a list the other day of some different foods that they were definitely in need of. I think that's in our bulletin. So if you need that, there's also maybe a list of items in the side foyer. There's little cutouts I know that we had printed and cut out. So if you'd like to take that with you just while you're doing your grocery shopping this week or towards the end of this week, if you could get some things, fill that bag. You can hang it on your mailbox and the Postal Service will pick that up May the 10th. Leaders of Light, the youth-led service and potluck lunch is scheduled for May the 18th. So please plan to stay around for that, support our young people. Appreciate Taylor and Katie and so many others that continue to put so much effort into that. VBS is coming up, scheduled for June the 1st through the 4th. The theme is Making Waves. There is a poster out in the hallway where it is every year that you can see where you'd like to sign up. Please sign up on that poster, areas where you feel like you can serve. Also, there is a t-shirt order form. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this order form. It's in the side foyer, so if you have already signed up there or are going to sign up later, that's fine. But I'm going to just allow us to pass it around tonight. If you want to sign up for a t-shirt or a handful of t-shirts, name, phone number, and then youth and or adult sizes, you have this Wednesday and Sunday to sign up for those t-shirts. They can go ahead and get them printed and get them ready for VBS. So by this coming Sunday, if you plan on getting a VBS t-shirt, please sign up. If you need any more information on that, you can see or contact Cindy Carter. I know Ellen Talbot's helping her out with that as well. If you need any help on VBS or where you might can serve, you can see Taylor or Katie about that as well. I think that is all the announcements that I have. Another prayer request, just keep in mind all of our college students that are finishing up finals and all of our seniors that are maybe finishing up class today. Some of them maybe throughout the end of this week. I doubt any of them taking finals, but just keep them in your prayers as they, graduation's here in a week and a half, graduation, 2 weeks? Yeah, a couple days. Keep all of our graduates in your prayers. I believe, again, that's all the announcements tonight. Brother Danny's going to come and lead us in singing. Taylor's going to extend the invitation, and then Brother Bill is going to close us out with prayer. One more thing. Miss McDaniel was Teacher of the Year, Secondary Teacher of the Year at Mobile Christian. Yep.
Okay. Will your anchor hold in the storms of life when the clouds unfold their wings of strife? When the strong tides lift and the cable strain, will your anchor drift or firm remain? We have an anchor that keeps our soul steadfast and sure while the billows roll. Fastened to the rock which cannot move, grounded firm and deep in the Savior's love. When our eyes behold through the gathering night the city of God, our harbor bright, we shall anchor fast by the heavenly shore, where the storms will pass forevermore. We have an anchor that keeps us so steadfast and sure while the billows roll. Fastened to the rock which cannot move, grounded firm and deep in the Savior's love.
Sorry, y'all. Justin was supposed to change the slides, and he's slacking again. I don't know what's going on, but hey, I do have one more announcement. The flooring in the gym is being removed tomorrow. The guy will be here between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. He's bringing a crew with him to help get it up, but if anybody's available, I know I'll be up here. I believe Ethan Hood will be up here. But if anybody's available to be up here to help speed that process along, you are more than welcome to join us. Again, we'll be getting here between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, so you can just come and see me if you're willing to volunteer to help out with that. Depends on how many people show up. If we get enough of them, shouldn't take long at all, Brother Robert. Is that you volunteering?
He'll take you or whatever time you can be there.
Yeah, you can volunteer as much time as you can dedicate to it. So, one of the main rules of public speaking is to know your audience. And so I'm just going to completely ignore that for the rest of this month, okay? So I love watching movies, and I'm sure a lot of you also like to watch movies. Katie's probably already back there rolling her eyes because I like to watch what she calls boring movies. All right, she calls me a movie snob. She says my movies are no fun and no good, and I'll watch some obscure foreign movies from time to time, but that's what I like. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy watching all types of different movies, and sometimes I force those movies on my family, and I'm like, hey, we're going to watch this together. One of those movies it's actually a Latvian movie, and it's this animated movie. It's called Flow. It actually won Best Animated Picture this past year at the Academy Awards, which, again, know your audience. I'm probably the only one that even cares about that kind of stuff. But I set my family down, pizza night, movie night. This is the movie we're going to watch. I was kind of hoping, had my fingers crossed, that it wasn't subtitles. Because if it was subtitles, I was going to be a good dad and not force my children to try to read this movie. So what's different about this movie, though, is that throughout the whole thing, and it sounds terrible, not a single word is spoken. Nothing is said. The main characters are a bunch of animals. Nobody speaks through the whole thing. Again, it sounds like a disaster. But it's good enough to where Elijah and Gabe, the entire time, eyes were glued to the TV, weren't they, Katie? Eyes glued to the TV. They didn't talk. They didn't fight. They didn't do anything. They were just watching it, completely focused on this movie. Next day, they requested to watch it again and again and again. And we know how kids do, and they get these obsessions. And so I like to, whenever I'm watching movies, TV shows, listening to music, anything like that, I like to always try to look at things through a Christian lens. And I hope that we can always do that with everything that we do. But I try to look at it through this Christian lens. And one of the things that really stuck out to me, like I said, all of the characters are these animals. And what happens in this movie is it starts, the main character, I guess, is this cat. And so you're watching this cat, and it's drinking from a river, and it's chased by dogs. And one dog is kind of curious and not like sticking with the pack of the other dogs. And eventually, all of a sudden, this flood comes. And as the movie goes on, you kind of get the feeling that it's like this Noah type of a flood. It's this major event. The world is flooded. And so this cat gets on a boat and starts floating around the world as the floods rise. And slowly, one by one, this dog hops onto the boat. Capybara, this big rodent thing, gets onto the boat. A lemur gets on, and this big bird gets on. I don't know what kind of bird it is, but so all of a sudden you have all of these different animals on this boat, and they work together. Because even though the dog at the beginning was chasing the cat, they have this same goal. They have the same mission that they are trying to accomplish, and it's survival. They're trying to survive this flood, and so they're quite literally all in the same boat. And so they work together throughout the movie to survive this flood, and finally, at the end, the flood goes down, and they're able to get off. But even then, the boat's up in the tree on the edge of a cliff, and it's going to fall, so they have to work together to get all the animals out of the boat. And so through the whole movie, you have all of these different types of animals working together to accomplish this mission. And to me, the first thing that I thought of after watching this movie is that's how the church is supposed to operate, right? We're all living in a world that is being flooded with sin. There's sin all over the place, but we all, as a human race, but especially as Christians, as the church, we have this one goal in common. And that's we're all trying to get to heaven. We're all trying to spend eternity with God and with Jesus Christ. And so we're all trying to get there. We're all trying to work together. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, the Apostle Paul, he describes the church as a body, right? It's these different parts. We all have different personalities, different talents. We all have different abilities. And there might be something that I'm terrible at. There's actually a lot of things that I'm terrible at, but the good news is those things that I'm terrible at, there's a lot of you out there who are really good at those things. And some of you might be really bad at other things, but some of us might be able to fill in the gaps and do those things. And that's how God designed the church to operate as the body, right? It wouldn't do any good, Paul says, if the whole body was an eye. It wouldn't do any good if, your nose is thinking, man, I sure do wish I was an ear and I could hear. Well, no, we understand we need those different parts to work together, to work like a body. Just like in the movie Flow, all these animals work together because they have this same goal. We too should be working together because we have this same goal. And this is shameless plug here. It's one reason why I absolutely love VBS, because it's one of the only things we do as a church where it truly pulls in all of the different talents, all of the different abilities within our church here to use them to evangelize and to teach and to give this experience to kids, hopefully creating memories for them and creating this love for the church. And we can pull, whether it's building things, maybe you're outgoing and you like to be in front of people and you can act in a skit, maybe you're creative, you can help with the crafts or games. There's so many different things to get involved. The sign-up sheet's out there. Please sign up. Please get involved with VBS this year. But if it's not VBS, with everything that we do as a church, you have a place. You play a role. You have an important, vital part, right? We think of small things, pinky toe, pinky finger, something like that. Insignificant. You probably don't think about it on a day-to-day basis, but if it wasn't there, you sure would notice. It's the same for you. If you're not here, We know this because we're lacking when you're not here. We're in need of your talents and your abilities. And so I hope and I pray that we can all be sure that we're getting involved with the Azalea City Church of Christ, getting out in the community, involved in our discipleship groups, involved with VBS and everything else we have going on. Tonight, maybe you've kind of lost that sense of all having the same goal, all trying to accomplish the same thing. Maybe you've let some things get in the way to where you're not focused on the thing that you should be focused on. We're not focused on eternity. We don't have that eternal way of thinking. Maybe we're not looking at things through a Christian lens, and we're missing out on all of these things around us that we could be learning and growing from. But tonight, whatever it is, if you need prayers, if you need to put on Christ through baptism, if you just need us to wrap our arms around you and be here for you, we can do all of that. All you have to do right now is to come forward as we stand and as we sing.
There's a fountain reaches for you and me. Let us sing so rain to its free. 'Tis a fountain of love from the source of love, and He bids us all freely drink. Will you come to the fountain free? Will you come? 'Tis for you and me, thirsty soul. Hear the welcome call. 'Tis a fountain open for all. There the rock has left, and the soul is left, that may not endure water's share. 'Tis for you and me, and this stream I see. Let us hasten joyfully there. Will you come to the fountain free? Will you come? 'Tis for you and me, thirsty soul. Hear the welcome call. 'Tis a fountain open for all.
I would just like to say, Justin, you did a phenomenal job changing the slides then. Another thing I'd like to say is, Taylor, great job. Two things, though. Number one, I do not mind him spoiling that movie for me. And number two, if he ever invites me, I'm going to have something else to do to watch a movie. Love you, though, brother. Hey, church, we've had two great, Easter Sunday was a great crowd. This past Sunday, Honor Graduates was a great crowd. Guess what Sunday is? The Lord's Day, number one. What else? Mother's Day. Let's have another great crowd. Bring a mama, even if it's not yours. That'd be great. All right? We're going to honor them. Going to honor our Heavenly Father first and foremost, and just going to challenge ourselves with the words of the lesson. But I love you. I appreciate you. Getting ready to have our classes now, and so we'll be letting our dismissal prayer.
Father, thank you so much for this time we get to spend together in the middle of the week and to encourage one another, Father. Help us, Father, to be that body here in Azalea City that glorifies your name in everything that we do. Help us be the salt and light that you want us to be, and just lock arm in arm with one another as we run to eternity with you, Father. Father, so many on our prayer list, and you've heard the names tonight. There's so many others, though, Father, that we just ask your blessing and healing in their lives. Thank you for those that are doing better. Thank you mostly for your Son, Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen.
A brand new commandment to talk about. We're in the middle of a class entitled Made Free. We are here to talk about the Ten Commandments. We started a few weeks ago talking about the choices God's given us, talking about the importance of believing. And we looked at what we call the preamble of the Ten Commandments. And then we last week talked about number 1, which is no other gods. Remember, Jesus was asked that in Mark 12, and he was asked by a lawyer, scribe if you will, if he knew what the greatest commandment was. And of course, we all know that you should have no other gods before you, but Jesus answered him from the Shema that we are to love the Lord our God with everything we have. And so we concluded the choice we have is to love or not. We believe God for who he is, then we certainly know if we love him with everything we have, we're not going to have any other gods. Now, looking at commandment number 2, and we'll get into that in a moment, it goes with commandment number 1. So you might say it's 1A and 1B, right? But we'll look at it in a moment. But I want to ask a question. Does anybody have something in their life that they just desired forever and ever when they were a kid or what have you, and you thought if you got this one thing, you'd never need anything else again? Yes, Justin.
Xbox 360.
An Xbox 360. I love it. Justin, it's not an Xbox 360, but a PlayStation 2. Now, I was an adult, okay? But I remember going into Circuit City. Y'all remember Circuit City? And I was with someone who was a friend of mine from college who was worshiping with us, and we went in there, and I remember seeing the PlayStation 2. They had it on display. And I thought, it will never get better than that right there. The graphics were incredible. By the way, go back and look at PlayStation 2 compared to where they are now. But I thought it will never get better. And so it was kind of that same along the lines. You know, the new Xbox was out and all. And so I was an adult, and I'm like, Michelle, please. You know, but anyhow, I get it. You thought if I get this, and you were a little kid, by the way, which was probably better than me being an adult wanting it. But if I get this, my life, you know, would you ever get it?
I did.
Yeah.
I had to get my black belt to get it. That was a promise.
Wow.
So,
Did it complete your life, though?
no,
No,
absolutely not.
it didn't. But can we relate to that? I can relate to that. I mean, I still like collecting cards. When I was a kid, I grew up in what they call the junk wax era. These wax boxes, the packs of cards were sealed with wax, you know, and so they call that the junk wax. And you know, all those, none of those cards are worth anything hardly that I collected in the 80s, but I can remember Jose Canseco. He had a rookie card. Now you grade everything and all that, but it was listed in the price guide for $100. And I remember thinking, if I got that Jose Canseco, I would have the greatest card collection in the world. Fortunately, I never got it because it's probably not worth 100 pennies now. But the point is, there's a lot of things like that I can remember. As an adult, if we get so fixated on that, you know, as a kid, we can kind of understand it. But as an adult, we can get fixated on stuff too. What is the danger we run into if we get fixated on things?
We lose sight of everything else.
That's exactly right. It becomes, we're so driven. And it might be a new vehicle. It might be a new house. It might be a new boat or gun or purse or whatever. I don't know. And so we get so fixated on it that nothing else seems to matter. And my cousin Bubba says this a lot. You know, we justify whatever we want.
All day long.
We can find a reason to get it. And so that being said, if we're not careful, that becomes, like Tim says, we're so fixated on it that nothing else matters, and that's now become a what? A god. An idol. Turn, if you will, in your devices, Bibles, to Exodus 20. Need a couple or a reader. We're going to need a couple readers tonight, but I'm 100% confident this is where I want you to read from. Bubba, if you want to read.
I'm trying to think what size shirt my wife gets her VBS wearing.
Oh, you better go a size smaller, whatever it is.
Yeah, so I'm totally distracted. What? I'm sorry.
No, I'm kidding. Is it, anybody, Exodus 21 through 6, somebody?
And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments.
Thank you, Jason. Again, the first commandment, no other gods before me. The second one is very similar to it, right? Do not make for yourself a carved image. Now, if you look at verse 5, he's talking about gods, right? He's talking about Elohim. He said, you shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God. Now, here's a little hint. If you have the ESV, I think the Revised Standard Version does it as well. Every time the word Lord is capitalized, what is it referencing? Yahweh. So when he says it there, the whole word is capitalized here. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, Yahweh, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love. What is God saying? I mean, it's very simple, right? I'm not going to share it. And you know what? I'm Yahweh. No one is worthy to be with me. Is that why idolatry tops the list? I could simply say because he's Yahweh, but what else do we say? Why do you think 1 was no other gods, 2 was no carved images?
Because carved image just see or know. It's something that the Creator created.
That's right. Now, remember in our angels class, we studied in detail Elohim. And the way they would make a carved image is they would create it, and they would leave the mouth open so that another false deity, another false Elohim, they thought would indwell that carved image. And that's what they weren't really worshiping the carved image, but they're worshiping the God in it. And that's why God's so important to know that he says, I am Yahweh. I am the only God. I believe he says it because if you go back to the preamble, what did he remind them of?
I freed you. I brought you.
I got you out of the place you were at. I brought you out of slavery. I brought you out of all this. I'm leading you to a promised land. I'm going to take care of you. It's going to flow with milk and honey. I'm going to do all these things. You better not bow down to anything else.
Wouldn't you think, though, that you're talking about Lord being Yahweh? At this point in history,
Excuse me.
Whenever God would speak, to Yahweh.
Say it.
That was Yahweh talking.
Yes, definitely. Excuse me.
All the back and forth between he and Moses, that was Yahweh.
100%.
Speaking to Moses.
Yeah.
Always.
And even speaking through Moses. Moses, and these 10 commandments, he wrote them down. Remember? It was his hand, so to speak, that wrote them down.
And it wasn't the Lord, it was the Spirit of God. He was the one that was considered Lord, like the one that Joshua met, that had the sword in his hand.
The angel of the Lord
Right.
would be more like Jesus there. Yeah. The second of the Godhead.
Right.
They wouldn't have known him as Jesus back then, is my point. What's the connection here that God is making between idolatry and slavery?
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. They were enslaved to somebody who thought they were a god. Pharaoh thought he was God. Remember when Moses said, let God's people go? He said, who is the Lord? I'm not going to let. In other words, I am my own God. I've got these other gods, but I'm sitting on the throne. He was so full of himself, but he had them enslaved to him, right? I mean, he could make people do whatever he wanted. If we are not careful, idols will enslave us. Can you think of anything that enslaves people today? Television, money, power, sports, money, social media, family. Very good. Cell phones. Think about this. We are so dependent on cell phones. And some of you are not. And, I tip my hat to you. If I leave my wallet at home, I'll be like, I could get by through the day without my wallet. I leave my cell phone at home, I'm on two wheels to get back and get it, right? Isn't that crazy? How times have changed?
Hey, I went to the haunted place today to get my daughter's car worked on. There were 7 people in that room. Every one of them had one of these except me, because I was watching him.
Brother, it is everywhere. Everywhere. And we can pick on teenagers all day, but adults are just as guilty, if not more.
And 30 years ago, it wasn't that way.
No way. I remember when we first got a cell phone, I think it was 1999. I had that Nokia, dude. You could run over that thing. I mean, you could throw it off a building and it was still going to work. Now, you didn't have it about 12 minutes a month, it seemed like. But I remember getting 100 texts on my plan. And then you had to pay for everyone over 100. Thinking, I'll never use 100 texts. You get in a text group with my buddies, you're going to use about 500 of them that quick. It's unbelievable how many texts are sent a month. But you're right, that's just the world we're in. And I don't mean to harp on that because I got a lot to talk about. But in all the things that we mentioned, are they in themselves bad? No. There's a lot of good that can be done. But when we become enslaved to it, is when the danger comes in. I'm glad that Jason said family, because I had a note here, can family, career, or even ministry become idols? There are a lot of folks today that are wrapped up in their family. And listen, I love my family very much. But some people, their families are going to come first no matter what. Careers, even we can get so involved. When I say ministry, if we're not careful, it can become about us. Because it feels good to do this, it feels good. And listen, I'm all about encouraging, but if we're not careful with whatever we do, we can take ourselves off. I mean, we can take God off the throne and put ourselves on. if we're not wise about it. Now I'm going to change directions for you a little bit. I'm going to give you a lesson that you might not think is a lot about idols. Turn to Genesis 22, please. We're going to read 1 through 14. Now, somebody can read all 14, or we can split it up. You want to read 7 verses? All right, Johnny will read 1 through 7. Who'll read 8 through 14? I saw Jason, but I'll get you. I do have more to go.
Oh, no, Jason, let Jason.
He's a new elder.
Yes, sir, boss.
All right, Johnny.
Genesis 22, verse 1. It came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, he said, here I am. He said, take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I shall tell you. So Abraham rose early in the morning and sat in the dark and took two of his young men and Isaac his son, and he split the wood for the burnt offering and arose and went to the place which God had told him. Then on the third day Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said to his young men, stay here with the donkey. The lad and I will go yonder and worship, and we will come back to you. So Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the two of them went together. So Isaac spoke to Abraham his father and said, my father. He said, here I am, son. He said, look, the fire is the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?
8 through 14. Abraham said, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. So they went both of them together. When they came to the place which God had told him, Abraham built the altar there and laid the wood in order and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar, on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, here I am. He said, do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the name of that place, the Lord will provide. As it is said to this day, on the mount of the Lord it shall be provided.
All right. Keep that in mind as I remind us of this. Jesus, in his public ministry, told the Pharisees and all those who were so legalistic that they had made hand washing a law. He said, I didn't come to bring peace to that. I came with a sword. He said on another occasion, I came to set it on fire. What I mean by that, what Jesus meant by that, I should say, is he came to bring in a whole new mindset. And so what I'm trying to do with the 10 Commandments, are we bound by them? No. We're not bound by the 10 Commandments. We're not the Jews. We're not under the old law. Now, Jesus told us in the Sermon on the Mount how it's not about the law, it's about the heart. So what I'm trying to do is make these commandments applicable to where we are, not just looking at it from a legal standpoint, looking at it from the heart. And I believe that there are things in Genesis 22, at least, it was taught to me as I was studying for this lesson, that remind us of the importance of not putting our faith in idols. Can you think of anything in this lesson that would be related to the second commandment? Right? He loved his family. Certainly he loved Isaac. He waited on Isaac a long time. Isaac is miracle, right? He's a miraculous child given to them in their old age. He loved Isaac. He knew the responsibility of Isaac.
And how protective he would have been of Isaac.
And how, yes, absolutely. You know he would have been. When he had his little family, what would that bring? A sense of security, right? A sense of safety. Can that be an idol? Can being in our own little comfort zones be an idol?
If he was not willing to follow the Lord and put God first, and put Isaac up there, saying, hold on, he's too precious.
Right, that's right. And where I'm trying to go with this too is, if you're in your own comfort zone, you're secure right there. You're not stretching yourself. What did it cause Abraham to do? He had to stretch himself. He had to go outside the norm. Now, God didn't sit here and say, remember what the second commandment is, but he taught so many lessons through this. He's testing him against what?
What he really wanted that child. But yet, he was believing enough in Yahweh that he would do whatever Yahweh told him to do.
He said, even my son is not more important than my relationship with God. That was a test, right? Folks, that's a hard one. Listen, God's not going to ask any of us to go sacrifice our child.
You know, in Hebrews it says that Abraham, it doesn't say knew that God would resurrect him, but he knew something would happen.
Yeah, he had enough faith, right?
But it seems like God is setting him free from understanding that Isaac is the promise.
That's right.
It's not Isaac that's the promise.
That's right.
I am the promise.
Wonderful, Jason. The theme of it all is made free. These commandments didn't make them, the way the Jews looked at it, along the way, the law made them legally attached. But if they would have done what God said, they were literally made free. Now, the promise, Isaac, through your seed, all seeds will be blessed. Think of the security, think of the promise, think of everything. But he said, I want you to understand I'm making you free because it's not going to be your son. Ultimately, we know it's going to be his son. Yes, it's a story about faith. No doubt about it. It was a testing of his faith. Yes, it's a story about trust, which really goes hand in hand. But it's also a lesson on no other gods.
Gary, look at how he did not hesitate.
Didn't hesitate.
Not murdered him.
And I love his attitude. The lad and I are going to come back. We're going to worship.
We see it because we read it in just a few verses, but think about the agony that he's going through on the trip. How many days was it?
Yeah.
Walking up the mountain.
Putting
knowing
Isaac
his son-
on the altar.
Knowing his son's asking him questions. We
Isaac-
go through those things all the time. We go through that agony.
Yes.
And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves and we beat ourselves up. And we think that we can do it and we don't let God do it.
Exactly right. Great point. I'm coming back. David?
The story, Abraham, Isaac, we can relate to that as humans. God did the very same thing. And I don't know if we could appreciate as much as we might if we understand this from a human point of view, thinking about what Abraham was through.
Sure. Even Jesus, though, he knew the outcome. Abraham didn't know. He knew God was going to provide, but he couldn't see it, right? He couldn't see it. Going back to Jason's point there, when you see this story the way we've always seen it, kind of like all stories, I guess they can become a little bit, we get a little bit numb to it or what have you. But when he's putting Isaac on that altar, Isaac can talk, folks. He's a lad. He's old enough to put two and two together and talk about it. Can you imagine, Father, what are you doing? You said there was going to be a sacrifice. What are you doing? And I can just see Abraham saying, God's going to provide, son. God's going to provide. You got to trust me. God's going to provide.
Or he might not have been saying anything, hoping that, it's coming, it's coming.
Absolutely. What would it have meant for Abraham and Isaac if he wouldn't have done this?
Abraham would have still obeyed God no matter what. He would have obeyed. Because he trusted God.
But what if he wouldn't have?
And it did a whole different story.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Wouldn't have been good.
Yeah, it certainly could have created resentment. It wouldn't have been good.
Could have removed the promise that he had made through Abraham, through Isaac, and then you would have,
It would have altered the plan.
would have altered the plan. You might not necessarily have the Jewish people where they were later.
Yeah, I mean, God would have always had a plan. He would have always, kind of like with Moses, when Moses messed things up, he still made it work. But it would have altered that original promise.
God knew what he was going to do before he picked Abraham.
He did, but we still have free will, Dale. I mean, it's just like Jesus.
We have free will, but he knows how it's going in.
Right, because God, when
We don't know, but
he
he
knew
knows.
that Jesus ultimately was going to come to this earth and be sacrificed, but he had no idea that Judah was going to mess up. He had no idea that Adam and Eve were going to mess up. At that point,
Well,
Jesus is coming.
yeah.
He had no idea that David was going to mess up. There were going to be opportunities for them to, but God, I think God's.
Do you think God? Go ahead.
I would say I think one of the greatest qualities of God or attributes of God or just conditions of God is that regardless of how we choose, he's still going to, Romans 8:28, make things work out in the end.
Amen.
Still, like the end result can be the same, but we still have a choice whether we're going to be on board and be a part of that plan or not.
Yeah.
I think Abraham had that choice right here.
Sure, he had a choice. Because Moses, do you think it was God's plan for Moses to kill somebody? No. I think it was his plan that, hey, I got this kid floated out of the river. What a great plan this is by God, right? He's raised in Pharaoh's court. One day his brother is going to sit on the throne. And he's going to say, brother, let him go. Yeah, man, okay, I will. It would have been that easy. But what did Moses do? He altered the plan. Now, God still worked it out, right? Moses learned how to be a shepherd. I want to go back to what Michelle said. Take all the scenarios out of it. What would it have done for Abraham and Isaac? It could have brought that resentment. Why? Because Abraham's sitting there thinking, I had the promise, and if it weren't for you, and you know how Satan works. My point of it is, he did not let Isaac be his idol. What do idols leave us? Empty. They leave us empty. Anything we fear losing more than we trust God to provide becomes an idol. Let me say it again. Anything we fear losing more than we trust God to provide becomes our idol. Even our own family. God didn't just want to set Isaac free from impossible expectations. He wanted to free Abraham too.
And he also needed to strengthen Abraham. This is just another test. If he strengthened him here and he can do this, then what can he do in the future that he may be required to do that would be even greater.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's sort of like a porch. If you get a porch, you put the metal in. What do? You take it out and beat it with a hammer to shake it up the way you want it. Then you stick it back in the fire. Then you beat it out till you get to the final shape. Then you stick it in the fire one last time and temper it.
You're right. I am, for the first time in this class, in a dilemma. I've been trying to get through every one every week, but I'm not going to get through this one. And I don't want to rush through it. I am going to pause right there. We can continue to discuss. But this all is very important, but I also want you to see it in a way that it's not just a carved image. We're going to actually have an assignment, and I'm going to give you something that was given to me through this study that's going to help you in the future, but that won't be till next week, so you got to come back. There's the old cliffhanger, right? The old Batman show. You got to come back next week, see what Robin's going to get into. But all that to say, sometimes, and again, I know we talk about idols and we talk about, the things that we've talked about, but do not see this just as a carved image. See it as something that we're trusting more than God. If we truly can't let go of something in our lives and allow God, even if it's our own family, and folks, to me, that's why the Abraham story is so strong. Because I think sometimes family's the one that we really struggle with the most. Hell's not worth going to hell for over anyone. And as hard as that is, you remember what Jesus Christ said about being a disciple. He said, unless you love less your mother, your father, even your own life, you cannot be my disciples. Whoever puts his hands to the plow, don't look back. And there's some stories of folks in here that have done that. You have come and been a part, no matter if your family came along the way or not. There are some other things that I think we really need to get into, And Julie brought up a great point with sports and hobbies and different things. There's just so much. I brought up cell phones and social media. Man, there's so much. But what are we willing to put on the altar? Abraham was willing to put his son on the altar. His security, he stepped out. You think that was comfortable? You think it was comfortable to go and put his son on an altar to try to sacrifice him and kill him? It was not comfortable. He stepped out of security. He stepped out of comfort. And sometimes along the way, serving God's going to cause us to do that. It's not easy. I think the Christian life is easy, but sometimes there's some very difficult decisions we have to make. I think Justin's point resonates well. If we will trust Romans 8:28, in all the situations we've had to say goodbye to, whether it's the job or whether it's the friends or sometimes even, unfortunately, the family members, if we will trust the one who told us to let go of it to begin with, all things will work together for good. Next week, if you want to go ahead and have some homework, we're going to talk about Jacob. We're also going to look at Colossians 3, where he flat out says, put to death idolatry. And we're going to put it to death. But I got to leave that right there. I don't want to rush through it. So we'll pick up there next week. Thank you for being here.